Hello. Let me get comfortable here. Do some minor adjusting. All righty. Dee, dee, dee. Oh, dear. Okay, this is way better. Hello, everybody. How are you? So, let's see where we were at last week. And I'll get to the page and then we'll discuss a little bit of business. So, two bits of business. One, and first of all, can everybody hear me? All right. So, lady artist, please send me your contact information um, through Twitter or here or somewhere like that because you won the waffle charm. So I need to mail that out to you tomorrow. And the other thing is, I ordered more waffle charms. So I knew it was going to be very popular. And I started thinking, I was like, well, you know what? Let's get some more waffle charms so that everybody can enjoy them. Hello. Hi, Todd. Hi, Denise. So, anyhow, I am very pleased that you're here. It has been an incredible week. Um, one of those amazing weeks where all the cylinders are hitting, and I was writing and enjoying the world. And I hope you were doing the same. I hope everybody's healthy. So, let's get to it and find out where we were. Um, Carlie's going down into her cellar, and I don't know how many of you have ever lived up north, so to speak, but there's a particular there's a particular sensation and a smell and this assault on your senses when you live up north if you have an old cellar. And old cellars are not necessarily scary. I find them to be very comforting. There's a little bit of a scent of earth and dried wood and old steps and stuff like that. And it all has this uniquely particular, wonderful scent to it that I find very comforting. And so we'll begin with Carlie in her cellar. My cellar is dry, earthy, and dark. It's perfect for growing mushrooms, casting spells, and breeding spiders of various types. Gus has refused to keep them under control, and I can't bring chemicals into my workspace. For now, the arachnid population and I have a gentle sort of detente. For now. The walls are stone, and I have small alcoves in which I place candles for light. There is no electricity down there. I keep as much of the modern world at bay as possible. I like the sense of closeness between me and the earth. It brings my spells into focus in ways that I cannot live without. I'm a better witch because of the silence, and I moved unerringly between the two heavy wooden tables where I keep all of the things I need to perfect my art. Yes, I said perfect. I don't practice anything. My grand taught me that. I strive to be the best witch I can, pure of spirit and intention. In turn, I hope that my spells reflect that freedom from any toxic influences of the dark world. With that in mind, I turn the collar over in my hands, feeling the slight nicks and stretching that had occurred during the years of its use. It hadn't been Cowboy's last collar, only his first. In fact, I suspected it was the only collar Cowboy had ever worn. He was a dog well loved, and his relationship would have surpassed the need of collars. Whoever this family was, they belonged to each other equally. The need for restraint faded with the last vestiges of puppyhood. As a dog, he was a friend. As a friend, I imagined that Cowboy was without peer. I let my hands move over the table, selecting items that mirrored such a spirit, and in an hour, I was ready to begin. I wrapped the collar carefully around a clay bowl that had so many cracks in it, could not possibly hold a liquid. That was fine, because the only things going into the bowl were jasmine, hairs from Cowboy that had been stuck in the buckle of the collar, and 3 colored lumps of beeswax. Telequile, I commanded, and the wax began to obediently soften before my eyes. My Gaelic sounded robust in the muffled dark of my cellar, and I watched as the orange, blue, and black waxes began to braid together sinuously. I placed 3 dog hairs into the swirling mass, letting the wax climb toward my fingers as it spun. Twirling about the hairs, the 3 colors wove together, forming a small, thin candle with a wick that was nearly invisible. I watched soundlessly as the spell completed, the surface of the heated beeswax cooling visibly. I took an ordinary match, struck it to the bowl, and lit the hairs aflame. They vanished instantly, burning into the new candle with a small sizzle as the tiny spark penetrated downward into the pencil-thin column of wax. In a flash, the candle collapsed, sending small, colorful waves up against the lip of the bowl before drying into a charmless gray dust. I lifted the collar gently, feeling the spell alive under my fingers. With economical motions, I replaced the collar and picture into the envelope, smeared the dust across the exterior, and closed my eyes in a silent moment of thanks for the generosity granted me during the casting. I felt light, even giddy, knowing that the spell would work. A boy would move on, his grief consumed by the spirit of the very animal who he loved and who loved him in return, no matter how many states of matter might be between them. For difficult loss, the easiest spell to cast invoked a visitation. There's a difference between the physical world and our dream state. In that same vein, there's a clear division between a dream and a visit. More on this in a moment. A visitation has all the hallmarks of a waking moment. You experience the person, event, or in this case, animal, with all five senses. They are, for all intent, as real as you are lying in your bed. There is no fear from a visitation, only relief, joy, too. There is some mild sadness, but that fades as it becomes clear that the departed is in no pain, merely separated by states of being, and that too will seem temporary, because it is. As I ascended the stairs to put the envelope back on the porch, the sky was pinking in the east. A chickadee called from the roof as the town began to rise, announcing the morning, along with the low purr of warming car engines and the odd, enthusiastic bark of a dog. The air was fresh and a bit cool, and after a deep inhalation, I decided that today was going to be good. So we'll stop there for today. I love the way that scene closes out. Hello. Hi, Mary. I'm glad you're here. My friend Mary Clark is here, and her daughter, they have a wonderful daughter who writes as well. And Mary has been participating in my online song challenge, which is absolutely a hoot. All of our friends, as we're on quarantine or not, sort of have been participating, and it's been an absolute blast. A thing about the visitation. So something, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It has certainly happened to me. Um, yeah. Yeah. Hi, Christina and Todd. Yes. My my mother passed away 23 years ago, and I felt I had a visitation. I mean, there's no other word for it. Um, and I'm not a ghost guy. The other thing I should say is I want to say this with some degree of delicacy, but I've never really been a ghost person or a UFO guy or anything like that. I think if UFOs exist, it's because there's life elsewhere, not because it's something mysterious. I just tend to I tend to be an evidence person. But with that being said, there was just absolutely no explanation for the way that I felt when my mom sort of, I was wondering, are you okay? You know, I knew she was going to be okay, but I was wondering, are you going to be okay? And can you let us know? Um, it the people that are in my life have all had visitations as well, which I find absolutely fascinating. It's sort of seems to be a universal experience of how we deal with grief. And Carlie is no different. Carlie takes on the grief of an entire town, which for a person who is 5 feet tall but has a heart this big is a extremely it's brave. Um, I am consistently amazed at how people handle grief. Some of us fall apart and then put ourselves back together, and some of us fall apart and never come back together. And then in between are the people who make it, but make it with help. And I think Carlie is that help. I think she represents all the very best that I was able to put onto a page of kindness, where she was willing to create something out of her own spirit to take grief away. And I know many of you are experiencing grief right now. Grief seems to be like a shadow. It seems to be like something that is almost eternal. However, the light of our lives, I believe there's a lot of good there too. So I didn't want to make halfway a place of shadows and doom, because that isn't how I feel or how I live. And I hope it isn't how you live. I think that the human condition is often, our natural disposition is more upbeat than downbeat. So I wanted Carlie to reflect that. Now, I say that with a, I say that even though, I'm the guy who introduced French Canadian vampire clowns and things like that. So I'm careful not to, uh, it is a little bit of a tongue in cheek statement that way. Oh, it does. Why does it resonate, Todd? Or Donna, if it's the two of you. I'm always curious. I find that our truths are universal. If I say, I will say that loss is not to denigrate the loss of anybody, but everybody, one of the ways that I would break the ice, I was a history professor for several years. And one of the ways that I would break the ice is I would walk in and ask everybody to tell me about their first car. And people, their eyes would light up and they go, oh my goodness, my first car. And they would tell these stories about their first car. Her name was Dixie, or her name is, whatever like that. And it's just amazing to hear people's identity associated with a car. Well, the same thing with grief. People have stories of grief that tend to be fairly universal. You ask somebody, what happened to you that was so drastic that it resonates with you still, and everybody can answer it almost instantaneously. That's one of the things that we tend, I think, to keep on our tongue. 31 years ago. Yeah. My friend Donna just mentions her mother passed 31 years ago. Yeah, in time. And isn't it funny when sometimes when your family members pass away, when somebody is in a process of, oh, see her in cardinals, which she loved. My mom loved bluebirds. It fascinates me. Like, sometimes the people who are leaving us, they're more concerned about us than they are about themselves. And I find that kind of selflessness to be it almost strikes me dumb. It doesn't take much to strike me dumb, but it's one of those acts of selflessness that you see that you can't even believe it's unfolding in front of you. And it happens so often as people move on to the next place. But I like the way that Carlie deals with grief. I like everything about her because I made her, but it would be unusual if I didn't like her. But in any case, thank you for sharing that. We all have one of those stories, and sometimes it's a little too close to the bone to talk about it. But I had a really good writing week. When you see a cardinal, it means a member of your family watching over you. Yeah, isn't it interesting that there's so many stories about birds? Birds carry a lot of, they carry a lot of meaning for us, but I'm sure that there's a history course in that somewhere. Oh, you do? My friend Mary plants pink and purple flowers because it makes me feel like Granny is close. Yeah, that's cool. And not in a sad way, like I eat tomato sandwiches, tomato on white bread with mayonnaise and salt and pepper, because that was the last thing that my mom ate. And she looked up at me and she said, that was so good. And that is one of my best memories of her ever, 2 days before she passed away. Every time I eat a tomato sandwich, which I love, I think of my mother. It's it's almost like an act of remembrance to eat a tomato sandwich. So in any case, not to get morose or anything like that, this is actually fairly uplifting. So Yeah, Mater sandwiches. I know. I could be in a 4-star restaurant and I would be like, "Do you have tomato sandwiches? What kind of mayonnaise do you have? We need to talk about details here." So, in any case, I've been yapping for a while, so thank you for being here. I think what we're going to do is next week we are going to have another giveaway, something fun. I'm not sure what. I will post it on the page, maybe a paperback or something like that. And if you have any ideas, I would love to have some feedback from you for ideas about what kind of stuff do you want from, what can I do for you guys? I guess is because you do a lot for me. So I don't know. Shoot me some ideas about swag and stuff like that. And let's talk about it. Okay. Um, have a wonderful week. Thank you very much for being here. I've enjoyed this again. Thank you for sharing. And I guess I will catch you guys next week. Okay.